name is Stephon Josiah. I am currently a student at the University of Guyana. I am doing the degree in education program. I'm currently in my second year. I am a prominent athlete at the University of Guyana, and I think it's okay to say that I'm fairly successful as an athlete at the University of Guyana. Okay, I was born in Essequibo. I was born in Suddy, Essequibo, on the Essequibo coast, but I grew up on Wakenham. I believe discipline is absolutely key. You can't get anywhere as an athlete if you are not disciplined. So I believe that is the top priority of all athlete discipline, and to add one more, it'll be consistency. You have to be consistent in whatever goals you set for yourself. It's very, very necessary to be consistent. Okay, we at the University of Guyana we train together as a club, and you need athletes around you to push you to another level, and I believe the camaraderie that you have as athletes in a club aiming towards a particular meet or a goal ahead, the camaraderie is important. So I believe it calls for a lot of tolerance. You have to tolerate people around you, because the same people you compete with, you have to you train with, and so on. So it calls for a lot of tolerance. You can't be too selfish. You need team building. You need to be social, very social, and in order for that to work. As being a student and a worker too, because I'm in the workforce too, and motivation is kind of hard to come by. It is really those maybe personal gains, the little accolades that you get. The feeling is one of a kind, and I believe once you get people involved in your success, that's one thing that would keep you motivated, because you have people who are looking on. You get people involved in your success, and they're actually looking forward for you to do, looking forward to your performance. So I guess that's a big motivation. Okay. And personal fitness too. It keeps you in order physically and whatnot.
Yo, Pan, you ready? Yeah. Man, let's lock and load. Yeah. Just blaze. Yeah. No, turn me up.
Sports in general, maybe from the time I could walk. If we just talk about athletics, I believe I got serious about athletics only when I left my home island, which is Wakenham. I said that earlier, I grew up in Wakenham. So I only got serious about athletics when I came to town for college, CPC. Yeah, so that was in 2006. Only then I started really training as an athlete. Before that, I did cricket. Well, I believe a particular meet, I actually didn't know that I could have compete with some of the better athletes around, and I just went into a race, and I was actually surprised that I defeated maybe a prominent athlete or two, and that sort of spurred me on. I'll have to give the university credit for that. I came out, I was a champion athlete in college, with CPC. That was a major accomplishment, but something to top that is what I achieved at the University of Guyana. I actually represented the University of Guyana in China at the University Olympics. It's known as Universiade. So I was the one and only athlete representing the University of Guyana in China in 2011. think of anything that is directly that I may want to call it tragedy. I had challenges. I mean, I didn't grow up with both parents. I grew up with my grandmother, and I can't say that I can put my finger on the disadvantages that I got from not growing up with them. But I thought about it, and maybe I don't even want to call it a challenge. It was probably a motivator or something. So I really can't think of any. I really see myself as fortunate. I think I was given a fair opportunity, I guess, by the Most High, the Father up above, and I'm thankful. I can't really put my finger on something that really affected me.
What would be your ultimate achievement?
I would be delighted to maybe represent the University of Guyana at the highest stage, or even the country at large at the highest stage. But taking into consideration a few factors like my age, it may be difficult to really press too much further. But I have one immediate goal, and I really see that as the ultimatum. I want to make the second University Olympics in Russia next year. I actually qualified for that, so I'm on my way to achieving my biggest thing in athletics. Well, sad to say that my diet is not as special as it should be for a successful athlete. I am a fairly regular eater, if I can put it that way. I go about eating on biting or on whatever it is that would pass around, I guess. But at times I do get very conscious with what I'm eating, especially around competition, like 2 or 3 months ahead of competition. That's when I really think about my diet, and I really try to eat according to the books and what may be recommended for an athlete to eat at that time. Honestly, I believe if I had to maybe pinpoint a talent that I have, it would be athletics. I'm very athletic. I was athletic from ever since. So ever since nursery school, I'm competing and I'm actually winning. I believe that is my most prized possession as an individual, in terms of what I like about myself. I like that I am competitive. I can, and if I put in the work, I actually can. I would actually see results. I like my body for responding to training and so on. So. It's actually a very good question. I must say it is difficult from the beginning. How do I make time? I spoke about discipline earlier. If you're not focused and extremely rigid, and I really mean you have to be extremely rigid, it's easy to neglect training and so on, or balance the two. It's very, very difficult. I mean, and if you're not focused and prepared to lose time and make sacrifices, it can be even harder. How do I make time? I try to stay as focused as possible for as long as possible on the task at hand. It means neglecting a whole lot of things, people like girlfriends and if I'm to speak to fellow student athletes, it would be nothing less than what I've said before. I don't know. I mean, if I'm doing it, I'm sure they can do it. I really believe that what's required is a high level of discipline, concentration, along that line, those are the things that will help any athlete. I mean, I can be specific, but I believe those two words, people has a lot to say. Discipline has a lot to do with it. I encourage them to be very, very disciplined. My most memorable moment in athletics, it will have to be waving, maybe I wasn't waving Ghana flag in front of a stadium with over 50,000 people. That would definitely be my most memorable. I have to say that today it is definitely better, and what you see is a start. The university is doing something, but I have to say maybe a year back or so, if I were doing this interview, my question to that would have been a definite yes. I'm not seeing anything, but luckily today I'm seeing something. You have a start. We have a start, and the University of Ghana need to build on the start that they have. Athletics is now picking up, and you need more commitment from university administration in order for athletics to not necessarily pick up, but athletics to be one of the prominent sports-related activity. Okay, well, I don't have, I figure because of economics and everything, I don't necessarily have a personal physician. The University of Ghana, they have a medics department and so on. And if I'm not doing well at a particular time, I always drop in and ask for advice or about what to do and so on. Other than that, I would do a checkup maybe like once a year. Yeah, once a year. And to see how my body is going and so on. That will have to be in, thinking about that, it comes from the strangest person, because it came from a teacher, first of all, when I was in secondary school. And for some reason, because of his rigid ways, I didn't necessarily like him. But he said something to the entire class once, and apparently I was listening at that particular time. And he said, once you have the right attitude, he said that half of the work is finished. And I didn't even realize that I was listening at that time, but that particular piece of advice lived with me from then up to now. And I teach right now, and I share that same advice with with students that I would encounter and so on. I have many, but I find myself being closer to one in particular that I use ever so often, and it is, I don't know if it is linked. I'm sure it is linked to athletics, but I don't know how many people will find that it's linked to athletics. It is there's a time for everything. I believe if you sit, I mean, it's easy to make plans. If you sit and you make plans to train today as an athlete, I mean, you need to execute. You've given that time to athletics, and that's the time you should be training and not be focusing on anything. It's easy to be thrown off, to gaff and laugh and so on. It's not the time for that. It's time for training.
Yo, Pain, you ready?
Yeah.
Man, let's lock and load.
Yeah.
Just blaze.
Yeah.
No, turn me up.
Hey.
I think we got one.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Tell me, what do you see when you're looking at me? Whoa.